Hello and welcome to Radically Embody Love Podcast. This is Nasrin Barbic. I usually am here with my lovely co-host, Jessica Falcon, but she couldn't be here today with us. But we do have a special guest, Whitney Walker. Welcome, Whitney. Whitney is a licensed marriage and family therapist who specializes in addiction, eating disorder, trauma, and spirituality. And just before the show started, we were talking about what is alive here for us and what is it that we want to talk about today, because we can talk about many things. And what showed up for us is relationship and what do we think? Do we want to pick a partner based on our trauma or we want to avoid it? And can we avoid it? Is there a benefit to actually attract someone who can help us see the trauma within us so we have an opportunity to heal it? Or we just want to stay away from it? Can we do our own work? Because after all, isn't relationship could be a catalyst for our evolution and a spiritual growth? So stay tuned as we talk about this. Well, welcome, Whitney. I'm glad you're here with us. First, tell me, how did you find all this aspect of that you teaching, the family therapies, relationship, spirituality, coaching, especially spirituality? How did that spirituality found you, which I always find like it actually finds you rather than you go chasing it? And how did this come about for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Nas, and thank you for having me on the show. Very excited to be here. Wow, there were so many times along my path where these little indications, these little introductions, these beginnings of awakenings happen for me. But I would say predominantly, if I look at the seed of what is blossoming now in terms of my theologies, my concepts, my ideas that I align myself with, and the divine feminine, which is really pertinent for me in my work. When I was in my 20s, my story includes addiction, eating disorder, going through recovery, getting sober, very, very low self-esteem, self-destructive behaviors, all of that. So if you go back to when I was in my early 20s, I got to this point where I was at such a low point and rock bottom self-esteem, like could barely function, was drinking and partying the way one often does in their 20s. And you think you can get by being, if you can just be cute enough and you get enough attention, that'll be like your life fuel. But I reached this point where I was like, this is exhausting to try and fuel my life through things outside of me. Because if someone doesn't approve of me, I fall to pieces. And if someone doesn't find me attractive, I just feel devolved in any sort of value. And I just hit this place where I was like, is there more to me than what other people think? And what's wild, not that I realized, was there is, but the world gives you a lot of messages that there's not. And I was sitting there thinking, I think there is something stronger than just being the most attractive, getting the most attention, the most impressive, successful, whatever it is, but I don't see anyone else trying to focus on that. So I had to go within and I had this revelation in my 20s. Unfortunately, it didn't stick, as I like to affirm to people is keep in mind that when a bubble of inspiration comes up, it doesn't mean like you're going to suddenly be cleared of all your past misconceptions, right? It takes time. That was 15 years ago. And only now I'm still working to get through it, but I'm leaps and bounds beyond. But that 24-year-old girl that I was had this moment where I realized there's something inside of me that doesn't change. Not if somebody accepts me or doesn't, not if I'm attractive or unattractive, not if I'm successful. There's something inside of me that's just pure light. And I realized it was my soul. And of course I knew of a soul. I always felt aligned with that. I was never religious, but I always felt that life is much bigger than we realize, that life goes on. And if you put those two together, well, then I must be more than just this body, and I must be more than external validation. There must be more of value to me. And from then on, it's been a consistent growth of this concept of, why am I trying to almost destroy myself because I don't fit the mold? Why can I not see that I don't have to do anything to be worthy of having a place on this planet, in this world? And so do all of us. And I just started looking around the world and saying, we're all desperately trying to be enough, but we're already enough. And I was like, that's such a conundrum. It's so backwards. So that kind of started me. And then, years later, I got sober because I realized that even after that revelation, for me, drinking and using drugs was like trying to climb up a mountain with like a river running down it. Like I'd make some progress, but I would just keep backsliding, because for me, drugs and alcohol took me back into this dark place of, nobody likes you. There's something wrong with you. You don't matter. You're not lovable. Don't even try. You might even want to get rid of yourself because you just don't matter. And I didn't want to be in that space anymore. And the other revelation I had when I got sober was, I see this woman that I could be. I see someone who is graceful and kind and considerate and intelligent and driven. And I thought, I don't see myself being able to be that woman if I keep drinking and using drugs, because I get sucked back into that darkness. So I got sober, and that really began my true spiritual awakening, because once I let that go, I had to look things in the face, right? I couldn't keep hiding or avoiding things anymore. So that was almost 10 years ago now. And once I got sober, I started doing a lot of therapy, and doing therapy inspired me to become a therapist, and getting sober inspired me to focus on drugs addiction, but more so about self-destruction. Because again, back to my point of looking around the world and being like, isn't it fascinating that I truly believe we're meant to be here to enjoy life, but most of us aren't. Most of us are not thinking very highly of ourselves, are struggling with low self-esteem, are struggling to feel like we matter. Doesn't make sense. So that's pretty much my life's work now, is to do what I can during my time on this planet to see how we can begin to shift that perspective of ourselves, so we can be feeling good about who we are and enjoying our lives.
Yeah, there's so much you said that I love about your journey and where you are right now. One thing that you mentioned, which I think is something that I want to emphasize, that the spiritual growth doesn't happen overnight. And first, initially, we do have that knowledge intellectually, but embodiment work takes, that's where the real work starts. Like intellectually, you know it, but you're still not acting. You're not being what you intellectually know. And to become that, then that's the practice of embodiment, what it means to be love and act according to that. And that takes courage, self-inquiry, be willing, with the love and compassion. I'm a mindfulness meditation teacher, practitioner, and I know the importance of embodiment practices. As Rumi said, don't seek for love, seek to see where you have created obstacle against love. But one thing that they don't mention when they say the other part of that poem is, but embrace the part that causes you that pain, that trauma. By embracing, meaning befriending the part of us that is aching, that is we keep in shadow because we don't like, but befriending it and loving it and bring it to the wholeness that we are. Because if you're not willing to see ourselves, all aspects of ourselves, and then the recognition of who we truly are is not those part of us that with this and we want to keep in darkness, and who we truly are is that awareness that is witnessing everything that is going on in our life. And then from that place, we can love with love and compassion, bring the wholeness back. We all whole, but we have, forgotten who we truly are. And remember who we truly are. It requires a lot of self-love and self-compassion. And through that, we can grow and lead a life that we truly meant to lead. And that requires us to see our beauty within. And what you were talking about is, I think, so common. It was for me, that's how my journey started. The recognition that all my life, I was looking for something outside to make me feel better, to make me feel value and that I'm worth something. I recall like my life was all about, I need to get that degree, so I am somebody. I need to get that job. I need to marry this person. I need to in order for me to be happy and feel whole, I had to keep seeking from outside. And the moment that came that I had it all from outside, my life looked perfect, career, money, husband, kid, and I was unhappy. And that's when it shook me to my core. It's like, what else I need to achieve that I haven't? And that like literally stopped me. And then when my relationship wasn't going well, and I always had a habit of living relationship, the moment that pain would show up, that is, okay, this is not good for me, So but I got to the point that I had 2 young kids and I couldn't leave because of that early. And that was the best thing ever happened to me. That's when my awakening started, through the pain. Because to me, it seems like we have, as humans, chose to evolve and grow through pain, for whatever reason that is. The friction causes us to see contrast that we don't want, and then awakens us to who we truly are, what is within us can bring that inner joy that is already there, that love that is already there, right? So that's where I want to continue our conversation. And, you're a family therapist, and, most people, when I talk to them, especially when it comes to relationship, we are very quick seeing the flaw in the other person. But do you believe people come to our lives for a reason? And what is that reason?
Oh, absolutely. Of course. I often speak on my show about how every person that comes into your life has a gift for you, as do we. That's the other important part to remember, is especially if we've had a particularly difficult relationship, friendship, fallout, never forget that we offer something to that person. Even if it feels like they brutally rejected us and it ended badly, we were a gift to them and they were a gift to us. Because up at the soul level, there's no good or bad. People connect and we might label it like, God, that relationship was terrible and what an awful thing. If we can take the judgment out of it, to see it as two souls connecting for a reason, the same way that if two soulmates come together, it's for a reason. But if you look at it, like there's no difference between soulmates who love each other and soulmates who reveal what they need to work on. We label it as good or bad, but it's all based in love. We're all helping each other. We're all a gift. Not that easy to realize when you're going through it, right? You feel like, why is this happening? And goodness knows, I will be like, why did this happen? Like, what was a lesson? What was the purpose? Like, why would this have come into my life? I absolutely think that there is always, always, always a reason. There's no coincidences. There's billions of people in the world, and we happen to meet certain people, certain souls at a certain time. Everything has to fall into place for us to meet that person at that time. And it's not coincidence. It's a beautiful meeting. It's celebrated. It rings out through all the cosmos. It's like, oh, they found each other. Here's their moment. It's beautiful. But again, I'm speaking, from an outside point. When I'm in it, it's terrible. It's
but what you said is so true, and I've experienced it. And especially, so I want to share this, because I do believe that people come to your life for a reason. And the reason is you might have a contract to help each other awaken. And that was when I just recently came together. I had someone read my Akashic record and already had sense of this thing. And she didn't know anything about me, just my name, and didn't know anything about my husband. But right away, she said, the marriage that you have now is your second time you marrying this person. In the past life, you've been together. And when she started helping me to remember, he was a sailor. We had 2 kids, 2 daughters. Now we have 2 boys. And when she described him back then in that past life, it was as if she was describing him right now in my life, with everything we've gone through, which shocked me. And when I remember the moment he left, I started crying, that same feeling of a part of me didn't want to lose him, right? But one thing that didn't show up on that day, and it showed up in my meditation later, was that I am so grateful, even though we were separated for a long time. Even when we separated, I had this recognition that he helped me awaken. I owe them so much, because the person who I was at that point was a person I wanted to be. And he is the only reason that I went through that it made me to stop and do the soul searching. And all the pain that I went through was for my own good in a way, that I didn't recognize it when we were going through it together. But then one thing that I didn't recognize that I showed up recently was that I had a contract with him, and we decided to come back and reunite to help each other to awaken in this lifetime. And he has done it for me, but I haven't, although he has made move towards it, but his journey is not done, meaning we're not done, So, and that was like a really eye-opening thing to me. And I see it happening in front of me, which is like a magical thing is happening. But I truly believe now that we become mirror to each other. And I can only see my own trauma and only see where I need to grow through the eyes of the other person. But he's showing it to me. I so often work with people that say, he made me feel I'm not worthy, I don't have value. Then I said, really? Think about it. Did you ever felt within yourself that it all comes down in our trauma that we never from beginning felt worthy, or we didn't feel love. Now, this person made us see what is within us. But is it possible that we cannot see what is not within us? And now I say yes. And I had that experience myself in a different aspect of life. So once before, like when I was in a college and I was working in this restaurant, this guy came and he was complaining about something that happened. And I had another coworker next to me. And when he left, the guy who was complaining, she said, that guy was a racist. The way he talked to you is because he doesn't like foreigners, which to me, what I experienced with this guy was that he didn't have a good day. He's not in a good mood. I didn't take it personal. Why? Because I have never experienced in my own life discrimination or anything at that point, right? So I couldn't even reckon, even it might have been true, might have not. But the point is, for me, it wasn't true. But now for the other person next to me who has happened to experience a lot of that in her life, she picked on that, assuming, again, his assumption is a perception, that her perception is not that he's in a bad mood and treating you like that. It's because he has prejudice against you. Do you understand that? So then I realized what is within us will show up in our experience. It's like we're playing this game of life. We write the script and everybody plays the role. So for us can see within what is going on within us, you know?
Completely. The world around us is literally a projection of our beliefs, right? And just like you said, if you believe something, you're going to see it. You're going to say that person was mean to me because they were discriminating against me. And someone else will say, what are you talking about? They were just irritated because they didn't get their coffee or something. We see what we believe, right? They say, that's a phrase that I like, that people say, seeing is believing, but believing is seen. So like when you believe something, you will see it.
Right.
You will. You'll see it. I knew it. See, I told you. They didn't like me. If you believe it, you're going to see it. We'll make it happen.
Yeah. So this is a great awareness to have, right? Because now these days, when I do have a conflict, I do ask question, what is within me needs to experience this conflict? And what is it that I need to see differently?
Yes, and let's talk about relationships in that regard, because again, what happens in relationships, because it's so sensitive, it's so intimate, it's so easy to take it personal. And again, it's so deep in your emotions that you feel like you're just trying to navigate it and work through it. We don't get the chance to see, wait a minute, what did I need to learn here? Right? What did I need to see that I wasn't seeing? And we get lost in the waves of emotion and tied into somebody because we wanted something from them. We lose that ability to see, because any other situations, I find it easier with friendships to be like, okay, we got in this fight because X, Y, or Z, but it's difficult with love. And I think that's why relationships throw us for such a loop, particularly ones that end up being, whatever you want to call it, unhealthy, toxic, if they don't work out. It can be hard to learn the lesson because it's so painful. And there was love involved, especially if we thought we loved somebody and we thought they loved us. So yeah, but absolutely, people will come into our lives for us. And I like what you spoke of earlier, is that we have things inside of us that we do not see. We cannot have pure and complete self realization or evaluation. I don't think that humans have that ability, because here's why. So as a therapist, I do a lot of inner child work. Well, we can't always know how things impacted us through our lives. We might not realize, we don't remember our childhood perfectly. We weren't a fully formed adult who was able to comprehend the things that happened to us when we were 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. But those are actually the years where some of our core beliefs about ourselves were formed. So here we are walking the world. We're like, I'm fine. I don't take things personally. I'm self-sufficient. I'm not codependent. And then we get in a relationship and we're like, oh God, like why is this hurt so much? Why is this so hard? We would never have known that belief was there, that wound was there, that thing was in us, unless somebody came around to elicit it, to bring it to life. So we absolutely need these experiences. And I think that's the gift of the spiritual journey, is that you're able to know that, right? We were speaking before we started that the hardest thing is people who don't have that awareness. So they only see these situations as a detriment, as a horrible thing that happened, and they don't learn the lesson. They don't figure out what the gift of the situation was, and then they become jaded, right? I just did an episode about this on my podcast, which is that it's really sad when certain people just become completely jaded around love, because they say, well, why did someone so awful enter my life and hurt me so badly? They can't see the gift, because just like you said, we see what we want to see. There was a gift right there, but if you don't see it, you don't see it. If you don't believe there was a gift, there might as well not have been, but there's a gift in everything. It's almost like I'm having come to mind, like, do you remember the when you're a kid, like they have those like invisible ink pens, and you can like, it's like that gift is invisible ink. And unless you can like have the magic marker, you don't see it. And that spiritual awareness is the magic marker, where you're like, oh, look, they help me reveal this deep held belief that I'm not lovable. And I chased after this person who actually wasn't very nice to me. And I think I was doing it because I thought that maybe if they could be nice to me, I could believe that I was lovable. This person that was so hard and calloused and so seemingly unlovable, if they loved me, maybe I can release this. We don't know that consciously. I believe that's what causes us to gravitate towards people or to meet people who are not very loving, because again, it's the gift that says, here, this will help you to see what you have in there. And it's different for everyone, right? Everyone, I mean, it basically boils down to, there's about like 5 core false beliefs. I think it's that you're unlovable, you're unworthy, that you're not wanted, that there's something wrong with you, that you don't matter. Those are basically, and there's, a few more different flavors of it, but those are the core ones. We meet people along the course of life that need to help us see that. But again, we have to have the wherewithal to say, oh, thank you. Thank you for showing me this gift. Thank you, now that I can tend to it and I can give this to myself. That's what it ultimately comes down to. When we keep getting in the same relationships, it's because we're asking somebody else what we feel we can't give to ourselves. We're saying, can you please show me that I'm lovable? Please. Thank you very much. Yeah. Just do this and do that. And yeah, do this. You can't do that. It goes back to what we were talking about before, depending on things outside of ourselves. When I was in my 20s and I would run around begging for men's attention, it's because I said, I don't have any self-worth. So can you please give me, shoot me up with some self-worth from male attention.
Yeah.
You can't do that. It only lasts so long. The same as when you go after these people in relationships, and eventually the one will come around that will really try to mirror you and help you see, hey, don't ask me for this. You got to give it to yourself. And that's when I encourage people, when you have that awareness, that's when you got to go within, maybe take a break from relationships and dating and see, how can I give to myself what I've been begging for somebody else to give me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because once you do that, you hear it all the time. People meet their soulmate, an actual healthy relationship, because they're not coming from a place of deficit. They're coming from a place of wholeness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's a different kind of vibe.
Right. And one thing I love when you say, look, if you don't see the gift, not only you can get jaded, is you will repeat the pattern. Even if not this lifetime, you take it with you to the
That's the thing, that's the thing. I heard that recently, and it really made me like, oh, dang. It said this, if you're trying to avoid a lesson in this lifetime, don't think that you just get to die and be like, cool. No. It means you go and you do it again. And that, because life literally is just a continuation. We leave this physical form, but it's not like, if you had something to learn, you're going to still have to learn it. So you might as well get to school, get in class on time and learn that lesson, even if it hurts, even if you're like, yeah, but I don't want to feel that again. Feel it now, feel it later. Right.
Yeah. It's your choice. And we learn through our relationship. Somebody recently told me, I went to a retreat for a month. It was so peaceful, so great. I felt so good and all that. Then I come out and everything coming out of me and is all gone. I'm like, that is the practice. How can we bring that peace and joy from just sitting by ourselves? Of course, that's easy to do. When you go for a retreat and nobody's bugging you, nobody's triggering you, you're going to feel peaceful. But what do you learn out of that? I swear, not that much. It comes back. You're like, but when you are willing to stay in a difficult relationship, and I have to say one caveat, no physical or emotional abuse. Of course, that you don't want to say, I'm going to stay to learn my lesson. I mean, there are relationships that you need to leave, right? When it comes to that point. But if it's just that you keep getting triggered, that's the gift. What does trigger mean? It means there is something within you. There is a scar, somebody's putting salt in it and you're feeling the burn, right? So, but it doesn't mean that it's not within you. It's you already. Now this person is helping you see it, in a way. So then you can do something about it. Otherwise, we're going to go and in different relationship, and it doesn't have to be romantic. Look, if you be honest, you can pick up a pattern from your childhood that you continuously have taken it, show up at work, show up in friendship, show up in a person, in different level, obviously, but there is a pattern you can see, you continuously get into it. And that's when my awakening happened. I'm like, oh my God, I've been in 3 major relationships. Literally, these 3 guys from different part of world, different personality, but I got in the same place, me feeling unloved, me feeling disconnected, And the only common denominator is me. So could it be that I am the one doing this? That's when everything opened up. It was a journey to eventually get. But as you mentioned, it is all come back your childhood trauma that you like. We have trauma with big T and little T. Little T are it's still trauma, but people don't pay attention. Things that happen that causes you that you don't matter, your need don't matter. Just like I grew up in a big family, just because of that dynamic, I felt like having need is not a good thing because you put in pressure on everybody in there. So then I wasn't able to speak about what I needed in the right way until it came out with anger. And then how do you have a relationship with, you can't talk about your needs in a healthy way until it shows up in a really conflicting way. So all of this is to say, it is not an easy journey, but it's the journey that sooner we go through, the sooner we recognize who we truly are, and we are not our stories, but we do need to integrate part of ourselves that we pushed away and come into the peace and alignment with who we truly are. And it's worth doing that because we recognize that we don't have to do anything for love. We are love. We don't have to do anything for joy. We do have that innate inner joy within us that we just need to allow it to shine through us. And, that's the reward at the end of being willing to stay and learn from a relationship and what it means to eventually, you talk about impersonal, which I think is so important. Love needs to be impersonal. Unconditional love does not take things personal and is easily given, not because you gave me something or I'm just punishing you and holding back love from you, right? But that comes from the recognition of who we truly are within ourselves. And then no longer fear that by opening ourselves to that impersonal love, there's unconditional love, we have to give part of ourselves away. Yeah. And that comes from the self-love. My experience, the more I learned to truly, in a healthy way, love myself, the more I was able to express and give love. You have more love to give, and it's not selfish at all. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So many beautiful points there. So I got to jump on them quick. When we are in this place of feeling that we need to earn love, we're in a scarcity mindset, right? So we hold on to love and we say, I can't let this person go because I'm getting this little cup of love from them and I can't let it go because there's not enough love to go around. That's all life is love. That's all. Mm-hmm. Look around. Everything you see is love. The thing of life is love. Love and life are synonymous. Everything is love. So there's plenty to go around. But when we don't believe that, we're in scarcity. So not only to believe we don't have enough, if we don't have enough, then we certainly can't give it away. It's actually similar to the way we feel, a lot of people feel about money, right? We see someone with a sign on the side of the street and we're like, well, I have money in my pocket, but I kind of need that. Okay, well, it's everyone's choice, but it's just the scarcity mindset, right? You're like, well, I want to help them, but I also need this. There are so many spiritual tenets will say, give, 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 and it will always come back to you. The more you give, ironically, the more that you will receive. When you hold on, when you have a scarcity mindset, then that's what you will also receive. You're putting out like there's not enough, and that's what you're going to receive is not enough, right? So when we do move out of this place of I have to hold on to even the tiniest bit of love because there isn't more, we open ourselves. And then it's interesting what happens is we realize that we have enough love so we can give love. And when you give love freely, another tenet I've heard of spirituality says that give what you want to receive. So if you want to have, a beautiful, loving experience, then be very openly, unconditionally loving to someone else. Because what happens? You say, wait a minute, I thought I wasn't lovable, but here I am showing love to this person and they appreciate it. So I must have it. You can't give what you don't have. So give away what you want to receive because it makes you realize you already had it the whole time. Because that's the other thing. We already have everything that we've ever wanted. It's just the belief, right? As we talked about, you got to believe it. And people will tell you wild stories about this, where I had a friend who made it a mission to give away things every single day, like just to show to the universe, like, I have so much to give. And all of a sudden, all these opportunities just started pouring into her life. And she, to the point where she had to tell the universe, like, hold up, we got to close this floodgate because this is more than I can take. The universe is a reciprocated thing. It's really just, it's impartial. It doesn't judge. It will literally just give exactly back what you asked for, but you have to be clear what you asked for. So I just wanted to point that out because it's true. Be unconditionally loving, have an open heart. Don't let love jade you. I know these are harder principles to follow. And I'm a therapist. I'm a big believer that healing is also, we have to learn what it is to close yourself off, to realize that it's not helpful. I don't know anybody that just immediately got their heart broken and said, it's fine, I'm just going to keep being open and loving. Usually we have to go through a period of grief and loss until, here's the other point you made that's so important. When the day that we realize it had nothing to do with us, we don't get so heartbroken and we don't get so closed off anymore. It is not personal. As we said, that person was a gift to you. You're a gift to them. When they disappeared out of your life, it had nothing to do with you. It was because the contract was over. The gift was given. You move on. But what do? We're human. So we say, oh, you left me because you hate me. You left me because you didn't like me. You left me because I'm not good enough. And we take it personally and we close off. As you grow spiritually, you realize you just start blessing everything that happens to you. Again, not always easy, but you say, wow, thank you for this thing that happened. You know, my computer broke down. I had to get a new one. It was really frustrating, but I didn't realize I needed to upgrade it to show the universe that I'm ready for bigger and better things by making investments in my work. Bam. But we take things personally. And until we stop doing that, we just hurt ourselves and we keep ourselves closed off to the lesson.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Universe is not a personal, like, it's not personal at all. It's based on some laws and things that are going on, and it doesn't discriminate. But the more you get to know yourself, that's the importance of know thyself, the more understanding you will have of others. I remember the moment that I recognized that the thing that I took personal and thinking my partner was doing to me had nothing to do with me, because I was learning those things about myself. And he was also acting based of his trauma, childhood trauma. And you know, the moment for me, everything start was like the recognition of how could this be, the question. That's why curiosity is so important. The question arising within me is that how could this be? We have lived together for 13 years, shared everything, but when he recollect things, it's very different from my experience. Like we lived two different lives. We had two different experiences. How could it be? But that's the reality, that we all live in one world, but we have as many reality as persons in this world. We all create our own reality. How do we do it? Based on the experience of past, based on what we learn now, what the meaning we made out of that. Now we create a reality based on all those meaning that we made, that I wasn't worthy, I wasn't lovable, whatever that came to become our experience. Now we see the world through that lens, and all we see is that. So what he saw was through his lens was very different from what I saw, even though we shared the same experience for 13 years. Right? And that question, why is that? Like, because there was a moment I thought either he's crazy or I am crazy. It could not be. Now, serious. I was really contemplating just, am I crazy? Because what he's saying happened, it wasn't the reality of what I experienced. And that's when everything opened up. And then I recognized, okay, why that happened. And that is our belief, experience of past, that coloring everything. And then when we see things, we see it based on those, right? And so it is an amazing journey of discovery, you know?
It is. And that's why communication is so important, because even in a healthy, loving relationship, two people are still having two very different experiences of the same thing.
Mhm.
And if we haven't done a lot of our own work, or even if we have, because it takes a while to fully heal, I know my tendencies in relationship are just to make assumptions. And I'm so sure that I know exactly what my person is thinking and how they're responding, rather than just asking. Just like, hey, how did you take that? What were your feelings? I say, oh, he thought this and he wanted this and da 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 da. And where does that get us? It just gets us at odds, right? Because we're not, again, we're taking things personal, and we're thinking, my narrative is correct. I know what the story is. I know what's going on. No, everyone's living in a different reality. So we got to come together and talk openly and stop taking things personal. Because the other problem is that when we still have those wounds, because I still have these feelings, I get angry, right? You get angry. You're like, I knew it. They're not that interested in me. They're distracted. They don't actually care about me. And my go-to is, because I have, one of my childhood wounds is feeling like my feelings didn't matter. So I revert back to an 8-year-old who crosses my arms across my chest and pouts and just, shuts down. And I've had partners who are like, what is this? Can you talk to me? I'm like, no, it's fine. It's nothing's wrong. I mean, a lot of us do that, right?
Oh, you're not alone. When we're triggered, that's when the child comes and take over and control the whole thing. The adult is sitting in the back, and then our inner child, when that is taking control and driving us around,
Even the most respectable, upstanding person you've ever met is still a 5-year-old sometimes. It's just
which, come on, look at our country. Isn't that obvious? All our politicians, how they're behaving, like, right? They're behaving based on their trauma, the childhood trauma. But when we have the awareness, then when we have the power to change things. The pause I call it secret pause that is there. The moment I notice I trigger, instead of I reacting, I have an opportunity to choose to act differently. And that's how things change eventually.
Yes. We learn how to respond. Well, pause, right? That's what when I do couples work, the feeling comes up, the assumption, taking it personally, you got to pause and allow yourself that time because we can't fight feelings. We don't want to do that. You got to let them come up. They say that you are the sky and your emotions are the clouds, right?
Right.
You let them
They come and go.
They come and go. And then you wait, you pause so you can speak clearly. I think we've all been there when we make the mistake of speaking when we're highly
charged.
And people are like, I really didn't appreciate how you talked to me. And it's like, I know I probably should have waited. So we pause, and then we speak, and then we can actually speak from a place of our higher self and not our reactive self, our inner child. That's like, why did you do this? Why do you not like me? I do like you. We're in a relationship. We love each other. We're just having a fight.
Yeah. Well, Whitney, as you can see, we can talk about this forever. Like I can see your passion. I'm passionate about this too. Yeah. And it's beautiful because it brings everything together. But we have to end. So I want to hear where everybody can find you. And what is it, one golden nuggets you want people to take away from this episode?
Yes. Well, let me just throw out how you can find me first. You can find me on Instagram at Women Waken. Women Waken is the name of my podcast. I release 3 episodes a week. You can find me on all the platforms. On Instagram, if you find me and DM me, I'm happy to pull a tarot card for you. I'm a tarot reader, and I love to connect with anybody who hears me, resonates with, my message. Let's connect. And as far as the one message, with all of this said, let's just admit we're all having fun here. Like, this life is hard, but it's a wild ride. And I promise you, when it's over, you're going to say, oh my gosh, that was what? Your soul. Here's another thing that I realized, or I recognized recently. Your soul is grateful for every single thing you ever experienced. Your soul takes every experience like the most delicious thing it's ever had, whether it's what we would label as terrible and awful or the best thing ever. Your soul just wants the experience. So just keep that in mind. And I know it's not easy when it feels like the human experience of misery and challenges and despair, but just try and remember that also there's every down, there's an up. You will be lifted back up, and everything is for your highest good. So Just move and don't ever forget that within you is that connection with source and your higher self always. The eye of the storm is always there. You can always take a moment, even in the worst place, put your hand on your heart, breathe into your chest, and remember that you can never be harmed. You can feel like you get hurt in this lifetime and, messed around, but you're always in there. There's a part of you in there that's just a passenger on this ride and knows that it returns back to the infinite source. So as best you can, enjoy this ride. Find others who have that shared mentality, because that's what helps you get through it, right? We want others who see the same way, because then we can remind each other, you got this, just hang on tight. What's the blessing in this? How can we not take it personally? Find that support team. More than ever, people need that now because, times are challenging. And if you're listening to this podcast, it's because you're on your spiritual journey. So you are at a place where you're ready to enjoy the ride. So find those people that are passengers with you on that ride who support you.
Well said. Thank you. And we will put all your information underneath of the show and anywhere else that we post. So thank you again. Thank you again for being here. I really enjoy our conversation.
Me too, Nas. Thank you so much for having me on.
Sure. And thank you for everybody who's listening, who are following us. We'd love to hear your comment, follow us, and let us know what your interests are. What do you want to hear most about these days? Until next time, have a great day, night, wherever you are. Bye.